Hi folks, the Filipina P here. And recently there's been a lot of talk about a male loneliness epidemic in the West. An increasing number of men are finding themselves without a partner, whether by choice or because they're just not connecting with the women there. Despite not doing much to improve themselves, Western women's requirements for a man have suddenly shot through the roof, faster than the numbers on their bathroom scales, leaving many men both perplexed and disinterested. This situation has resulted in what some are calling a loneliness epidemic, and it doesn't bode well for the future of Western relationships. But I'm sure the women over there have your back and are doing everything they can to be sympathetic while helping to come up with a reasonable solution.
Oh, I'm a man. I'm so sad and lonely.
So apparently there's a loneliness epidemic in men. And I just want to say, sorry, not sorry.
One of three things is going to have to happen. Number one, men are going to start listening to women and actually start pitching into the relationship and having something to offer. Number two, men are going to have to start providing for each other's needs, companionship, maybe cuddles. And number three, they're going to live alone in a house with a bunch of cats until they eventually die. And quite frankly, I'm happy with all three.
Aww. Wait, I'm sorry. We're addressing men's issues, so this is a serious matter. Have you tried just picking better women? Maybe if you just didn't let yourselves go. Just a thought.
Okay, so they're not very concerned about finding a solution. But the good news is that I have one, and it works. Traditionally, men have always been willing to be the providers, the protectors, and the leaders. Men invent things, they fix things, and they keep your land safe from intruders. But Western men are suddenly waking up in a world where women say their services are no longer needed, leaving men without one of the most important things in their lives, a feeling of purpose. Guys that would normally be happy to commit to a woman are now feeling unappreciated, and in many cases, pretty darn lonely. They look at what their women have become and are increasingly saying no thanks to their dwindling options in the dating pool. So what happens next? Is Western society doomed? You can't have a stable country without men and women getting along. So first, let's hear what your women have to say about the problem. Maybe they have some good points.
So the male loneliness epidemic is simultaneously fascinating and just sad to me. Because the men who are lonely are the ones that can't get women, the ones that are trying and then convincing themselves that they're not with women because they don't want to be. But it's just in reality because no woman wants to be with them. But they are really clinging to this idea that they are owed relationships with women. They are owed our time and our bodies. They feel entitled to them. Women no longer need to marry men for our mere survival. That changed in the 70s when we can get our own credit cards. It just makes me laugh because I know it's making them cry.
Oh, the smirking condescension is so attractive. Can't you just feel the warmth and compassion of a real woman? Wow, I'm surprised you guys aren't standing in line for women with attitudes like that. So let's see. The men who are lonely are guys who can't get women because they feel entitled to women's time and bodies. Well, lady, I don't know where you got that from, but I never in my life heard a guy say he was entitled to anything from a woman. And as far as claiming they can't get a partner, did it ever occur to you that maybe they just don't want one with your attitude? And these days, that's about all there is to choose from in the West. The point you seem to be missing is that it's not the men who changed, it's the women. And your new personalities leave a lot to be desired. And by the way, you say you don't need a man because now you have credit cards? Meaning that the only thing you ever wanted from a man was his money? Men always suspected as much, so thanks for admitting it.
Have you heard that there's a male loneliness epidemic going around right now? Because women are tired of carrying most of the housework and chores in a relationship and also carrying the mental load. My ex-husband, my son's dad, was in town for my son's birthday, and we decided to break up the chores, so he took over cooking. Now, 3 separate times he asked me a question. What do you want me to do with, How would you like for me to blank? I said, figure it out. But I didn't back away. I said, figure it out. You're an adult. Do you see how this reduces significantly how much mental load you're giving me?
Right on, sister. That horrible man offering to do the cooking. And he has the nerve to ask you specifically how you want things done? Unbelievable! Such a mental load he's put on you. If I were a man, I wouldn't even consider giving you any of my load.
We talk a lot about this so-called crisis of lonely men, and this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. Every time women get ahead, every time women are earning the fruits of their own liberation, men and society lose their minds. Let's be clear here. Women having independence, women earning more degrees, it's not a crisis. Women were not able to get an education. Women fought for that. No one has ever kept men out of universities, and I'm talking about white men here, and they are the ones who are really mad about women being educated. Yet here we are, having the media, again, telling us, poor men, please women, do something about it. Actually stop going to school and go back to the home because men are lonely. It's funny how nothing is a crisis when it's about women, but when it's men, then we have to collectively do something about it.
Women weren't allowed to get an education? When were you born? 1836? That ship has sailed, lady. And you claim the media is telling women to get pregnant and stay home to take care of a man's needs? I don't know what media you're talking about, but that's not what I've been hearing them say. Maybe you are from 1836 and just stuck in the past. Don't look at that penny in your pocket, or it might snap you back to reality. And how can you say that when it's about women, it's never a crisis? Are you kidding me? Everything women complain about becomes a crisis, from mansplaining to menopause. Now for the last time, men couldn't care less how much money or education you've got. It's not a competition. Guys are just looking for an agreeable partner. But I think most of them would rather cut off their ears with a rusty spoon than listen to someone like you all day. And I love your nasty little swipe at white men, claiming they're the ones that get angry when women get degrees. What does race have to do with it? Care to back up your claim and show your sources on that? Or did you just slip it in there for shits and giggles?
What men or some men are wanting, their desires, it's like it doesn't fit into modern standards. What is required now? And that is more emotional expression, empathy, get in touch with their feminine principles. I mean, yes, because women are having to get into their masculine principles and do everything, be both sides. So men essentially have to be the same.
So men need to become more feminine, get in touch with their feelings in order for you to accept them. Sorry, but I don't want a weepy, sobby man that's obsessed with his feelings. And why would I want anyone to become something they're not? Men are logical, decisive problem solvers. And sometimes those are the qualities you need in a relationship. Unless, of course, you want to pull up a chair for that home intruder so you can have a group discussion about everyone's feelings before sorting things out. Now, you seem like a nice enough lady, but you say women had to become more masculine? I didn't get that memo. And just because you want a complete role reversal doesn't mean everyone else has to play along. You might have forgotten what a woman is, but I'd rather have a guy that never forgot what being a man is.
This whole narrative that I've been seeing in the media has been really problematic for me. I have been quite nervous about it, and I couldn't quite figure out why until recently. At some point, I started getting a lot of comments from men, whether it was here or on my articles, and a lot of them were saying things like, this is such a simple problem. Women could solve it easily, but you choose not to. You choose to hurt us by continuing to opt out. And of course, what they're talking about here is opting out of being used for domestic labor and SUL fulfillment. Interestingly, there are a lot of problems that men could easily solve for women that would ultimately solve that problem too. But they choose not to solve those problems and do not hold themselves accountable for that. And yet, we are held accountable for this one. I've also noticed that a lot of men have been coming into my comment sections and saying things like, well, look at this crisis that we're in, this loneliness crisis. Like, you choose not to solve this. No one's listening to us. No one cares. And so when men commit violence against women, it's because of that. It's because we have no other option. They are literally rationalizing RAPE and MURDER and domestic violence by saying that we are not giving them what they want, and therefore they are justified in taking it in any way they can. And what troubles me is that the media is complicit in this. Look at how many stories they're writing about this. Look at how sympathetic these articles are. But where are all of these articles for women who are lonely in marriage, or women who are in dangerous marriages, or women who are most likely to be hurt or unalived by their domestic partners? Where's all that? So as far as I can see, this whole narrative feels like it's being used to groom us back into submission. It's being used to rationalize male violence. It's being used to empower men to continue to be abusive to women. And I am not okay with that.
Wait, what? So you honestly think the only thing men really want is just a maid in the living room and a slave in the bedroom? And if they don't get what they want, they feel justified in taking it by force? And the media is also condoning it? Lady, I don't know what men you've been talking to, but I've been getting about 5,000 comments a week for the last 4 years from men, and I've never heard anyone express that opinion. Not one single time. And I certainly haven't heard any media reports encouraging domestic violence. Are you sure you're from planet Earth? But the thing that really blows me away is that you wonder why there aren't any articles for lonely or abused women? You're kidding, right? Have you opened a magazine or turned on a TV in the last 30 years? Of course not. You've been living under a rock, hiding from all those homicidal men.
The world is finally healing. There was a recent article by Psychology Today stating there is now a rise of lonely single men. 3 of the key reasons for this is 1. Relationship standards are increasing. 2. There are more men than women on dating apps, 64% more men. And 3. Men are deficient when it comes to dating. Women are becoming less tolerable of men's poor communication skills and lack of emotional availability. What I'm seeing is women are no longer accepting the bare minimum.
So it's all men's fault. There are too many of them on the dating sites. They have poor relationship skills, and women have leveled up and raised their standards. Well, I think the only thing that's any different there is the last one. Women have been convinced that they're all deserving of near-perfect men. The problem is, what improvements are you offering in return? It's easy to say, I want more. Even a child can do that. But in what way have you improved yourselves? And what was the other thing you said? Women are becoming less tolerable?
Women are becoming less tolerable.
Well, at least we agree on something. Freudian slip, maybe?
Yeah, we got these bozos out here on these dating apps well into their 50s talking about, I'm ready to settle down and start a family. I'm ready. Now I'm ready. Now you're ready? Bro, that ship has sailed. Time for you to look at the old AARP membership. You gotta join Silver Sneakers now. Go find an evening waltz class. Maybe learn how to cha-cha and samba or something with the other old fogies. Take up knitting, I don't know. And now nobody wants your dusty, crusty self. You're too old.
So men over 50 should just take their crusty old butts and fade away? Lady, you have no clue. You obviously don't know that mature men have many more options than that, including finding a woman like me. But please feel free to enjoy your bitterness while men continue to tune you out. So it looks like you guys aren't getting much support from your women. They don't really seem to care. And did you notice how almost all of them managed to make the topic about them? In a conversation that was supposed to be about the male loneliness epidemic, one woman turned it into a discussion about female academic achievements, and another one made it about domestic violence. And that poor woman with her beta male in the kitchen. It's so exhausting ordering men around. But what does any of that have to do with the problem of male loneliness, except to remind men of why it is they're lonely? Where's the care? Where's the compassion? Where's that female empathy we're always hearing about? As usual, All they did was blame everything on the men. And if I didn't know any better, I'd say your women only care about losing the victimhood status they've enjoyed since before I was born. They want to keep the focus on them, and any attempt to share the spotlight will result in a meltdown. If they admit that you guys have issues too, then what's next? Admitting everything's not your fault? Inconceivable! Oh, you guys are so screwed. If that's even a taste of what you're dealing with from the average woman in your country, then my heart bleeds for you. Too bad you don't have female genitalia. Then the whole world would be wearing little ribbons to remind everyone to be sympathetic. But as men, you're not looking for sympathy. You're doing what men do best, figuring out your best options, trying to find a solution to the problem instead of sitting in a circle and whining about your feelings. Now, I met a lot of women in the West that were really nice to me, but I don't have to live with them. So what do you do when your society no longer values you? Your women don't want you, and you realize how much harder it is to make friends now that you're an adult. Maybe you're middle-aged or older, with no one to share your life with. Maybe your kids are starting a life of their own, and you're feeling as useless as memories in a monastery. Well, I know some of you guys are gonna say, we don't need women either. We should just work on ourselves by getting in shape, building our finances, and enjoying our peace. And if you honestly feel you don't need a companion besides a friend or a dog, that's great, and more power to you. Everyone's paradise is different, and if it's not just a case of sour grapes, then go for it. But for most guys, that's just not enough. It's human nature to seek out companionship, and for the majority of people, that includes having a primary partner of the opposite sex. Now, it's possible you might find a good partner where you're at, but the odds are not in your favor. Not now, and maybe never again. Things are just too far gone in your part of the world, at least for the foreseeable future. You're looking at a generational change, so don't expect anything to be much different for a few decades, which are years you probably don't want to waste. So what can you do about it? Well, many men have chosen to disengage rather than to pursue women who have nothing to offer besides a bad attitude. And since the West has already hit the iceberg, maybe your best option is to abandon ship and swim to shore, but a different shore than the one you started out on. Now, many of you know what I'm about to say next, and many of you are right. Consider going somewhere you're appreciated, somewhere you can enjoy your need to protect, to care for, to lead, and in return, to find someone who's looking for those exact same qualities in a man. Someone that'll actually value you just the way you are. Sound like pie in the sky? Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. I see plenty of guys every day who find the woman they always wanted. They just didn't know she was out there. And I'm not just talking about the Philippines. There are plenty of places where you can find a companion that's the polar opposite of what we saw tonight. Women that don't see you as the enemy, who'd be happy to cure your loneliness and live with you in peace. Do we have our own set of problems over here? You betcha. And this might not be the life for you. Maybe you can't even come over here except to visit. And you're thinking of bringing someone back to your country. But either way, my point's the same. You have plenty of options that are better than the status quo. Women like me are the alternative to women like them. And may the best women win. Well, that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'll be back on Tuesday with something that'll make you think and make you smile. Till then, folks. If you think about it, I'm like Bond, James Bond, delivering classified intelligence for your eyes only. With a license to kill misinformation and bad advice, it's my mission to get you the truth about the Philippines. All I ask for my Secret Service is that you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and visit my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive features. And while you're waiting for your next debriefing, check out some of my other videos too. Well, that left me a little shaken, but not stirred.